Ungoverned impulse is a weight, and for the modern man, instant gratification is the silent architect of his own prison. Machiavelli understood this centuries before neuroscience had a name for it. He wrote that men are driven by appetites they cannot govern, and that the man who fails to master his own internal terrain will always be mastered by someone who does. Today, the trap is not just biological. It is engineered. Every screen and algorithm is designed to hijack your reward circuitry, keeping you locked in a cycle of depleted presence. The man caught inside this cycle doesn't just lose discipline, he loses his sharpness. He loses the invisible force that makes others, especially high-value partners, feel his authority the moment he walks into a room. But here is what nobody explains. The mechanism destroying you is not willpower failure. It is neurochemical architecture. And until you understand that architecture, you will keep feeding the machine that feeds on you. This is not a conversation about guilt. This is not a moral lecture wrapped in shame. This is a strategic dissection of the most powerful force inside the male brain and the hidden psychological mistakes that turn that force from fuel into poison. What you are about to discover is not surface-level self-help. It is the operational manual for your own nervous system. The invisible rules governing desire, motivation, and masculine presence that no one dares to explain, because the truth is uncomfortable, because the truth implicates habits most men protect as sacred, because the truth demands a level of change most men are not willing to make. But you are still here. So let us begin where the damage starts. Silently, invisibly, in the dark. The average man believes that lust is a feeling, something that rises, peaks, and fades. A momentary impulse with no lasting consequence. But that belief is the first invisible mistake, and it is the mistake that keeps millions of men locked in a cycle they cannot name and cannot escape. Lust is not a feeling. Lust is a neurochemical event. It is a cascade of dopamine, norepinephrine, and testosterone that floods the prefrontal cortex and temporarily rewires your decision-making circuitry. When that cascade fires, your brain does not process consequences. It processes craving. It does not weigh long-term cost. It chases short-term reward. And that distinction matters more than most men will ever understand. Because every time you act on that cascade without awareness, you are not relieving pressure. You are training a pattern. You are reinforcing a loop. You are teaching your brain that the fastest path to pleasure requires no effort, no growth, no risk, no real human connection. And that lesson, repeated thousands of times across months and years, does not just weaken your discipline. It fundamentally alters the architecture of your motivation. It reshapes the terrain of what your brain considers worth pursuing. And once that terrain has been flattened, the man standing on it does not understand why nothing excites him anymore. Why the goals he once burned for now feel like distant abstractions. Why getting out of bed feels heavier than it used to. He does not connect the dots, because the dots are invisible, and the system that connected them was designed to never be seen. Machiavelli described this exact phenomenon in political language. He called it the corruption of appetite. When a republic allows its citizens to grow soft on easy pleasures, the republic decays from the inside, not because of external enemies, because internal discipline dissolves. The soldiers stop training. The merchants stop competing. The leaders stop leading. And by the time anyone notices, the structure is hollow. It looks the same from the outside, but inside, there is nothing left to defend. That is what happens to the individual man when he surrenders his neurochemistry to automated pleasure. The external structure may hold for months, for years. He still goes to work, He still smiles at the right times. He still says the right things. But inside, the architecture is crumbling. His ambition is hollow. His relationships are hollow. His sense of self is hollow, and he fills that hollowness the only way his rewired brain knows how, with more of the same poison that created the emptiness in the first place. Neuroscience has mapped this with terrifying precision. In 2014, researchers at the Max Planck Institute in Berlin found that men who consumed high levels of pornographic content showed measurably reduced gray matter in the striatum, the region of the brain directly responsible for motivation, reward sensitivity, and goal-directed behavior. The more they consumed, the less responsive their reward circuitry became. Not slightly less, dramatically less. The brain was not breaking, it was adapting. It was recalibrating its baseline for pleasure so that normal life, real conversation, genuine ambition, creative work, deep human connection no longer registered as rewarding enough. The colors faded, the music dulled, the hunger for something meaningful was slowly replaced by a flat, gray tolerance for the mediocre. And the man experiencing this shift did not have the language for what was happening. He just knew something felt wrong. He just knew he used to feel more alive than this. This is the silent catastrophe. The man trapped in this cycle does not feel broken. He feels bored. He feels flat. He feels unmotivated without knowing why. He scrolls endlessly through content that leaves him emptier than when he started. He starts projects with a burst of energy and abandons them within days. He avoids discomfort like it is poison. He cannot sit with himself for 10 minutes without reaching for a screen, a distraction, a way to numb the low-grade restlessness humming beneath everything. And he never connects the dots between his nightly habit and his daytime emptiness. Because the addiction does not announce itself. It disguises itself as relief. It whispers that you deserve it, that it is natural, that everyone does it, that there are no consequences. And that whisper is the most dangerous lie the modern man believes. Machiavelli saw this principle in political terms long before brain scans existed. He observed that men are most easily controlled not through violence, not through fear, not through force, but through pleasure. Give a man comfort, and he will surrender his ambition without a fight. Give him easy gratification, and he will never hunger for anything difficult. The prince who understood desire, understood power, and the man who could not govern his own appetites was, in Machiavelli's eyes, already defeated. Not by an enemy, not by circumstance, by himself, by the quiet surrender he mistook for freedom. Think about what that means in practical terms. The Roman generals Machiavelli admired did not conquer territories because they had the largest armies. They conquered because they had the most disciplined ones. Soldiers who could march for days without complaint. Soldiers who could delay the satisfaction of rest, of food, of comfort, until the objective was secured. Discipline was not a personality trait in those legions. It was infrastructure. It was the operating system that made everything else possible. And that operating system ran on one principle above all: the ability to feel an urge and choose not to act on it. Not because the urge was wrong, but because acting on it in that moment would cost more than enduring it. The modern man has lost that infrastructure entirely. He has been taught that every urge deserves immediate satisfaction. That suppression is unhealthy. That discipline is repression wearing a different mask. And so he releases, and releases, and releases, and wonders why he has no power left when he actually needs it. That principle has never been more relevant than it is right now, because the modern world has industrialized easy gratification on a scale Machiavelli could never have imagined. It has turned human desire into a product, a subscription, a feed that never ends. And masturbation, specifically the compulsive pornography-fueled kind that most men practice without questioning, is the delivery system. It is the invisible chain. The comfortable prison with no walls and no warden, only a door the prisoner refuses to open because he no longer believes there is anything worth walking toward on the other side. He has forgotten what it feels like to want something that requires sacrifice. He has forgotten what it feels like to burn. And the tragedy is that he does not even know what he has lost. Here is the second invisible mistake. Most men treat masturbation as neutral, harmless. A biological release with no psychological weight. Just a physical function, like eating or sleeping, a pressure valve with no side effects. But the research tells a very different story. In 2016, a Cambridge University study led by Dr. Valerie Voon found that the brains of compulsive pornography users displayed the same activation patterns as the brains of drug addicts when exposed to their substance. The same regions lit up, the same craving pathways activated, the same desensitization occurred over time, the same tolerance built, the same escalation demanded. This is not metaphor. This is not exaggeration for dramatic effect. This is measured, observable neurological reality. The brain does not distinguish between a chemical substance entering through the bloodstream and a behavioral trigger that produces the same dopamine spike through the visual cortex. It responds identically. Craving, consumption, temporary satisfaction, withdrawal, craving again. The loop tightens with every rotation, and when that spike becomes routine, the brain demands escalation. More novelty, more intensity, more extreme stimulation. Not because the man wants it, not because he chose it consciously, because his neurochemistry requires it just to feel normal, just to reach the baseline that used to be effortless, just to touch the floor of sensation that keeps dropping lower and lower with every cycle. This is what addiction researchers call tolerance. And it operates identically whether the substance is cocaine, alcohol, or a high-speed internet connection, paired with infinite visual novelty. The mechanism does not care about the source, it only cares about the spike. And the man who feeds it daily wakes up one morning and realizes he needs content that would have disgusted him 5 years ago just to feel anything at all. Not because he is deviant, because his dopamine receptors have downregulated so severely that ordinary stimulation no longer registers. He has not become a different man morally, he has become a different man neurochemically. And the distance between those two truths is where the shame lives. The shame that keeps him silent, the shame that keeps him cycling, the shame that Machiavelli would have called the most useless emotion in the human repertoire. Because shame does not solve the problem. Shame is the problem wearing a different face. This is the trap Machiavelli would have recognized instantly. The man believes he is choosing freely, but he is being chosen. He believes he controls the habit. But the habit has restructured his reward system so thoroughly that the idea of stopping feels not just difficult, but pointless. Why would I stop something that feels good and hurts no one? That question itself is the symptom, because it assumes that feeling good in the short term has no long-term cost. And Machiavelli's entire philosophy rests on the opposite premise. Every pleasure unchecked becomes a chain. Every appetite ungoverned becomes a vulnerability. Every comfort zone unexamined becomes a prison. And the man who cannot say no to himself will eventually be unable to say no to anyone. Now let us go deeper, into the part most men are not ready to hear. Into the territory where neuroscience meets something older and darker. Something Machiavelli glimpsed in the courts of Florence and the battlefields of Italy. Something that explains why certain men command rooms without raising their voice, and why others become invisible despite their best efforts. The addictive psychology of lust does not only affect your brain chemistry, it does not only flatten your motivation and darken your ambition, it affects something far more immediate and far more devastating. It affects your presence, your energy, the invisible signal you broadcast to every person around you, particularly to women. And this is where the hidden cost becomes impossible to ignore. Because a man can hide his habits, he can never hide his energy. Because female attraction, as decades of evolutionary psychology have demonstrated, is not primarily visual, it is primarily energetic. Women evaluate men through a complex unconscious filter that measures emotional stability, internal certainty, and what researchers call trait dominance, the quiet sense that a man governs himself before he tries to govern anything else. This evaluation is not a conscious decision, it is a reflex. It happens in milliseconds. And it cannot be fooled by surface performance, no matter how polished the exterior. The man who is neurochemically depleted cannot fake that signal. He can dress in designer clothing, he can memorize the best scripts, he can practice power posture in the mirror for hours. But his energy leaks. His gaze shifts too quickly. His voice lacks the depth and resonance that comes from internal stillness. His emotional reactions are too fast, too eager, too hungry for validation. Because his reward system has been trained to chase micro hits of pleasure, and that training bleeds into every interaction he enters. He becomes reactive instead of grounded. He becomes approval-seeking instead of self-contained. He becomes the man who gives everything away before the game even begins. The man who chases instead of attracts. The man who explains his value instead of embodying it. The man who asks for permission to exist in her space instead of occupying it with quiet authority. In 2019, David Buss at the University of Texas published research showing that women are acutely sensitive to cues of emotional dependency in men. The female brain interprets excessive eagerness, rapid emotional escalation, and low selectiveness not as enthusiasm, but as instability, as risk, as a signal that this man does not have internal resources. He needs external validation to feel whole. And that interpretation, which happens in seconds, kills attraction before a single meaningful word is spoken. It does not matter how handsome he is. It does not matter how successful he appears on paper. If the energy behind his eyes carries the scent of neediness, her ancient evaluation system files him under one category: high investment, low return. And she moves on. Now connect these findings. The man who compulsively uses pornography and masturbation as emotional regulation is training his brain to depend on external stimulation for dopamine. That dependency does not stay in the bedroom. It does not stay behind closed doors. It follows him into every conversation, every interaction, every moment where he needs to be present, grounded, and emotionally self-sufficient. He cannot hold tension. He cannot sit in uncertainty. He cannot allow attraction to build slowly because his neurochemistry has been conditioned to demand immediate release, immediate gratification, immediate reward. And women feel this, not consciously, not through logic, through the ancient evaluation system that has protected the species for hundreds of thousands of years. The system that reads energy before it reads words. The system that detects desperation before it detects charm. The system that knows, before the conversation begins, whether the man standing before her governs himself or whether he is governed by forces he does not even see. This is the third invisible mistake. Men think the habit is private. They think what happens alone stays alone. They think the bedroom has walls thick enough to contain the consequences. But the neurochemical consequences are public. Your dopamine sensitivity determines your motivation. Your motivation determines your energy. Your energy determines your presence. Your presence determines how the entire world responds to you. The chain is unbroken. And the man who ignores it spends his life wondering why he feels invisible, why his words land flat, why his efforts produce nothing, why the world seems to pass through him like he is made of smoke. Machiavelli wrote that the appearance of virtue is more useful than virtue itself, but even he acknowledged that true power requires substance behind the mask. A man cannot project calm authority if his internal world is chaos. He cannot project selective confidence if his reward system is wired for desperation. He cannot create the tension and ambiguity that spark deep attraction if every cell in his body is screaming for the next hit of effortless pleasure. The mask cracks. It always cracks, and what leaks through the cracks is the truth of what you have been feeding your brain in the dark. So what does the architecture of recovery look like? Not the motivational poster version. Not the 30-day challenge that collapses on day 4 because it was built on willpower alone. Not the guilt-driven abstinence that lasts until the first stressful night and then shatters into a binge worse than anything before it. The real architecture. The one that rewires instead of merely resists. The one Machiavelli would have designed if he had understood neurochemistry. The one that treats the problem not as a moral failure, but as a strategic miscalibration of the most powerful system in your body. Because this is an engineering problem, and engineering problems have engineering solutions. First, you must understand that this is not about willpower. Willpower is a finite resource that depletes under stress, fatigue, and emotional pressure. Every man who has tried to quit through sheer determination and failed did not fail because he was weak. He failed because he was fighting neurochemistry with willpower, and neurochemistry always wins that war. Always, without exception. The prefrontal cortex, the seat of your willpower, is the youngest and most fragile region of the brain. The limbic system driving the craving is ancient, fast, and relentless. Putting willpower against limbic drive is like putting a philosophy professor in a cage fight with a silverback gorilla. The outcome is not a question of effort, it is a question of architecture. And architecture must be met with architecture. The shift is strategic, not moral. You do not stop the behavior by hating it. You do not stop the behavior by drowning in guilt about it. Guilt is just another emotional spike your brain learns to associate with the cycle, another trigger that loops back into the craving. You act out. You feel shame. The shame creates emotional pain. The brain seeks the fastest available relief from that pain, and the fastest available relief is the very behavior that caused the shame. This is the guilt trap. The moral framework that most men use to fight the habit is the exact framework that perpetuates it. Machiavelli would laugh at the irony. The weapon the man uses against himself is the weapon that keeps him imprisoned. You stop